Well, hello, educator friends. I hope you are having a great day wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. Here we are for another episode of the School Life series. We are in season three, and this season is all about real educators, real stories, real strategies. I'm excited to be bringing you each one of these episodes again, tailored just for you to provide you what you need as an educator, but also what you need as a human being, just to make you better overall. And so today, our guest is another incredible educator. I just keep pulling these out. I don't know how I'm doing it, how they're all agreeing to come on, but I'm grateful to call this guy a friend. Mr. Curtis Price is an elementary principal from the historic Roanoke Island in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Like all my guests, he is not just a great leader and educator, but he is a great family man. He's a mentor, role model, and like I said, just a great human being. I'm going to let Curtis tell more about himself here in a minute, but I just want to say I'm excited for this conversation,
Yeah,
for the
me too.
educational world to hear Curtis's voice, what he has to say. He's just one of those guys that I keep telling him this, but like more people need to hear what he has to say and what he has to share and what he's doing. So while I'd really like to grill Curtis about the pokes and kooks and cut, Outer Banks fans, if you know what I mean, uh, we're gonna keep it educational today. And our
Uh,
topic is all about the three R's: rigor, relevance, and relationships. So we'll get into
yeah.
that first, like we always do. We want to know about you. So Curtis,
Yeah,
thank you
man.
again for coming on. Tell us about you, just personally. Who are you? Your
Yeah.
passions, your family. What's life like in the OBX?
OVX, man. Ross, well, thank you for the introduction, man. That was really nice. Put some beautiful words in there. Yeah, so I'm a family man first, Christian family
Yeah.
man, and I love where I live. I love the community I serve. God's been good. I live in Nags Head, North Carolina, which is on Outer Banks. Happily married, my wife 10 years, and I have three
Hmm.
beautiful children: CJ, Curtis Jr., Sarah, and Stella. It's 8, 6, and then Sarah, who nicknames Uji. She's a little 1 years old, and we are just happily blessed. And I think one of my biggest hobbies, which actually got me to Outer Banks, is surfing. So
Okay.
I want to toot my own horn, but I'm decently good at surfing. But the Outer Banks is a mecca for surfing. If you looked up kind of some of the biggest East Coast locations for hurricane swell, seasonal fronts, I mean Outer Banks, and that goes to the graveyard, to the Atlantic, all those historians out there that know about all the shipwrecks and our rocky shoals and our sandbars and how the littoral cell on the East Coast and where we are kind of out generates a lot of good
Hmm.
waves. So Ross, when you make it down here, I'm giving you
Yeah.
free lessons, dude. I'm telling
I
you.
know we keep saying that. I
I,
can't wait. I'm
I
gonna
mean,
make it happen. I've
and
never
I'm
surfed
gonna
my
get
whole
you up.
life.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
Mr. Indiana Fever, like I'm gonna put you on board. That was a part-time job when
Yeah.
I was first teaching. Making ends
Yeah.
meet, teaching surf
That's
instructions,
cool.
and
I can
then
surf
working
behind a
with
boat.
both.
So here in Indiana, we got a lot
There
of
you go,
lakes. We
man.
got a
See,
boat, and
you're gonna
so
be. You might even be better. Like the wakeboard to surf is probably
yep.
pretty easy, but like
Mm,
me surf to wakeboard, I probably, you
you'd
know,
struggle.
yeah, yeah. When I went to get a teach on, I
Okay.
tried that little wave thing in the Gaylord. Wasn't the same feeling,
Oh
man.
yeah.
It's
No, that's
different.
hard. Yeah, that's
It's
tough.
different, but I had to try it. No, I mean, and then my passions are working with teachers and kids, and I
Hmm.
love to live a healthy, active lifestyle, swim a lot, competitively, like master swimming and running. Anything that I can kind of get myself a little refiller, because I
Hmm.
want to be driving hard in the school world, but also driving hard at home. Work
Hmm.
life balance is super important, and I feel very obligated to take care of myself, like my physical body, what I put in. But just happy, man, just really happy where I am, and even the story of how I got to the Outer Banks, it's just a book in itself. How we built a
That's cool.
house and how we came and vacation there as a kid, and then got opportunity, and then my mother moved down here after she retired, and and we had a house and a rental property for like 15 years. That all how the Lord worked it out is just beyond me, man. So
Pretty cool. Where are you originally from, Curtis?
Chesapeake, Virginia.
Okay. Cool.
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay.
Tidewater area,
Awesome.
man. It's
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, man.
And one thing I always want to point out real quick before we go on to all of
Yeah,
our
sure.
listeners. One thing that you notice with all the guests that I have on the School Life series, and we don't plan this out or say anything, we don't talk about it before, is one thing I notice is everybody talks about one, like hobbies and passions in an active lifestyle outside of school, taking care of themselves, okay? And two, a work-life balance. And that's
Yeah,
so important
it's huge.
because, I mean, not to, if I'm bringing people on as a guest of School Life series, they're good people, but they're great educators. And so if to be a great educator, you can't just say, I'm just a great educator. You have to have this work-life balance. And it's so important. It could be an entire series and season of its own for sure. But I just want to point that out because you just you said it. Everybody says it, and it's
Yeah,
so important. So if you're
awesome.
listening today and you're like, "Man, I'm just struggling as an educator," maybe you need to take a step back
Yep.
and say, "Maybe I'm doing too much here, and I need to pour more this part of my life." So, Curtis, tell us about your journey as an educator, because I know that's
Yeah,
a little unorthodox, and
totally.
yeah, share it.
Totally, yeah. So, my early upbringings, I wanted to be a doctor. So I went
Mm-hmm.
into pre-med track in college and, kind of going like a dental route and wasn't falling. So had opportunity on a whim. Was like, maybe I'll try to build my resume up. And I had a friend of mine who was trying to go teach somewhere. And I sent some emails out at university and not knowing they put me in contact with a school in Costa Rica. Just graduated and I emailed them. Didn't know what I was getting myself into, but became a pioneer. And got a job teaching K-12 in Ciudad Quesada, Costa Rica, as my first teaching job ever. And I was the only English teacher in the school outside of the
Okay.
one high school, kind of like more of like a dean of students. He knew English. Everyone else was Spanish speaking. And where it's like a full script, and I'll kind of get into it later, was, I'm a principal of a K-5 DLI school in Spanish, so Spanish immersion school.
Mm-hmm.
And mind blown is that this is back in 2010 when I went to Costa Rica. I was the only English speaking teacher, but I was teaching it in English. And pretty much the way the schedule was, like, they're getting like me teaching in English every day. So they're fully immersed in English classes with me. But then almost 90% of the day, it's all Spanish. So
Okay.
the 90-10 model that some schools bring now, even though we're at 50-50 in Mania, but other schools bring the 90-10 model where they're at,
Yeah.
was what I was invested in. No idea, right? So I was, and I mean, I've never had no teaching experience. I go up there,
Yeah.
I'm thinking Costa Rica. This is like Nokia. This isn't like Google phone. So I bring my surfboards. Like, I'm going to Costa Rica. Principal comes to the airport, no English, and does no idea what a surfboard is. Board shorts. I'm like,
Not what you
right.
had in mind.
We're going to the mountains. It's cows, it's cattle,
Oh
it is
my.
not coast at all. And I'm here and I don't have mattresses. I'm living above in an old tech room above the school, right? So trying to
Wow.
sleep on the floor, teaching, my schedule. I moved, the kids stayed in the same class every day, no lesson penny, no nothing. Thankfully, what I brought was all my coursework at Chapel Hill. I took a year of grad classes as a post baccalaureate in a medical school program. On a whim, was able to be a lab mate to a guy getting his doctorate in robotics. So the school let me sit in for a year of medical school classes, pass or fail, because this guy needed X amount of credits to finish his dissertation. His name was John. He's like a 40-year-old, almost like forever student. And But I was able to bring my material with me in my luggage, right? And I brought a bunch of surf stickers for kids because I worked at surf shops, and I just started creating lessons and trying to figure out how to teach kinder, second, fourth, 8, 9, 10 on Monday, and then like 2, 3, 6, 7, 9, 11 on Tuesday. And then that was like my
Wow.
rotation, right? I had a
Yeah.
backpack and I would walk to classes and had to go in there and be on stage and keep kids engaged for an hour, right? And build
Yeah.
relationships and play soccer with them before school started, or go to these quinceañeras in downtown and learn the culture, right? And it was hard, right? It was challenging,
Mm-hmm.
but that
Imagine.
experience was what got me in teaching. Like
Mm-hmm.
removed coming back to the States and being like, do I want to go back in this medical track? Um, got opportunity downtown Wilmington and then I got on a coffee with a friend because of coffee. I fell in love with coffee in Costa Rica and we built an espresso machine. We went up and down the coast presenting coffee, roasting it in Hawaii, went to Hawaii, picking beans, not filling my bucket
Yeah.
enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it was
But surfing, I'm sure you were surfing.
surfing. So I got that right, and then just this and
Yeah.
the coffee, and then it was like spinning back, like, but the kids, and I missed like seeing the kids and
Mm-hmm.
maybe growing in that profession. So I came back to Outer Banks and sent a principal an email, and they had a job that like probably no one wanted. It was a job in between two schools. You're split, no real planning, and but I needed a science teacher teaching seventh grade here and then a ninth grade teacher, then 10th grade teacher, and then needed one position. So that was me. Um, so I was in the middle school in the morning and then right over the high school, teaching 9, 10, middle school 7th. And then it just did that for
You're
3 years. And
back with your backpack, bouncing
back
around.
with the back, it was like normal for me. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
people were asking me about like, BT experiences and mentor. And I'm like, didn't really have one. Like, I was
Mm-hmm.
here, what staff meeting to go to? Like, but you get to
Yeah.
learn so much. And what was the kids like, and then it benefited me because I was able to coach soccer at the high school. And then I'm getting kids like hooked on me as an educator in seventh grade, eighth grade. And then I got them in ninth grade. I still got stories of like Keegan and Jose and Jorge. Like I taught them in seventh grade, and then they had me pilot a high school course. This is back in the day when now it's like really like common knowledge, like high school classes in middle school. But they're like, "Would
Yeah.
you?" I'm up for that. Like I'll crosswalk, I'll create some standards, I'll put it together. So like eighth grade class, and that's a high school credit. So I'm teaching a kid in seventh grade, and I got him in eighth grade, and then I could coach them in ninth grade if I was teaching still in ninth grade. And I was teaching 10th, 11th grade, like physical science and earth environmental. So I could have a kid for like 6 years,
Wow.
right?
You
And I
talk
had
about
these
building
kids that
relationships.
relationships, right? So like,
Yeah.
I talked about that even my journey through principalship was like, and then I'm coaching them. So you get to like see a kid in seventh grade, like
Yeah.
you're raising them
Literally.
up,
You're
and then
raising.
you
That's
see
what I was
them in
going to say. You're literally raising these kids.
right, and then
Mm-hmm.
you help them get to college, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like the reputation you're building with the kids is huge, right? Kids didn't even know me in high school, but they knew who I was. They knew me from how I'm working with other kids in the soccer field. They created their own story, and then when they met me, hopefully I can emulate the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a hug, if it's a smile, it's just being authentic, being real.
Yep. Your
And
authentic
I'm
self.
in a small community, so
Yeah.
seeing me out, right?
Yep.
Seeing like kids at a movie theater. Like my wife would tell you the story. Like couldn't go downtown Mania sometimes because I still got the old 2004 Toyota Tacoma, 300,000 miles. It's beat up, surf truck. People know in the community. It's right there. It's at my school. It's at all my schools, right? Man, it parks anywhere. Me and my wife would go down to the movies. Kids would be just chasing, running behind me, like in this little downtown quaint, area in Mania. But I loved it, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I love these kids. I'm gonna stop them, give out, I'm gonna give them all hugs. They
Yeah.
call him by his first name, Curtis, right? Like
Oh yeah,
let them
the
do
fat
it. This doesn't bother me. Because in the
rebelling, calling you
classroom,
that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, in the class they won't do it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
They turn it on for you, Mr. Price, yes sir,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they know I treated them, yes sir, you got it, yes sir, yes
Right.
yes sir, But like,
Yeah.
it doesn't bother me, man. If they want to do that, it's fun for them. They're still
Mm-hmm.
kids. They should have people that they know connect with them and love them too,
Yeah.
and they can have fun with. At the end of the day, you can work hard, play hard, but
Yeah.
it's
I
special,
remember,
intimacy
similar
in that,
moments
right?
like that. I was the same way as a teacher, and that's why we connect so well. We have so much in common. But um, yeah, like I remember other teachers saying, like, you're gonna let kids talk to you like that, or you're gonna like eh, those kids respect me more than you'll ever know. Those kids would literally run
Totally.
through that brick wall right now if I asked
Correct.
them to,
Yes.
because they
Those
know that I
kids
love
will.
them. Yeah,
I mean,
it's it. That's it.
what one story was, I just recently, one of those kids, name's Aiden, sent me an email a couple weeks ago. And he emailed me once about 2 years prior to that. was like, hey, Mr. Price, I'm thinking about, I just got a job in DC. I think I'm going to be an earth environmental teacher. I got my master's in chemistry. I remember all your stuff about coffee and all the stuff you went into. So I went, one route was like dental, medical. Then it was like master's in chemistry, Ross. Didn't like it. Coffee, back to you, man. It's just all that stuff, right? And but he's like, it inspired me, and so I'm taking this job, it's inner city, and what kind of feedback? I'm like, oh, dude, that's what we had a conversation on the phone, talk about life, talk about faith, and I gave every resource that I could find on Google Drive. I say, take it, lesson plans,
That's cool.
this,
Yeah,
that, take it, dude, take it,
I'm sure
run
it's
with it,
great.
like fill yourself up, right, and then call me if you need anything, right? And the other stuff ends up getting married, right? Tall for a couple years, and then he got hooked with this like Global Earth Day like network, right? And he's like a human resource developer. Sends me an email a couple weeks ago. It was like, Mr. Price, like your conversation with me was like the most impactful conversation I've ever had. I'm happily married now to the girl I told you about. I got this job and I've never been happier. Like, just thank you for
Yeah,
taking the time to come. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like
yeah,
Aiden, like in my class was not. I mean, he was a great kid. He's just like like,
yeah.
but I didn't never knew that was going to be an impact, right?
Right.
That's going to
Yeah.
have, or like I remember the busyness of the day. It was like probably COVID coming out, and I'm like emails and parents, and I'm like email Aiden. I was like, just give me a call. Just give me a call. Let me just catch up. Let me see what's going on. Just give me a call, right? Trying to get in my
Hmm.
car. I'm going back in my head right now, like calling him. I'm like heading home, like trying to make it happen, you know.
Yeah.
And but on that other side of it, it's like how that impacted him, and you just give God the glory. You're like, wow, like that's
Yep.
just
One conversation, like you said, it was just just one conversation to you, right? But to him, it was everything that totally changed his life, and that's educators, right?
that
That's
is
like what we
education
do.
right there.
And I
Yes, sir.
love that you said, Curtis, like, I mean, I was here, you went all these, but something led you to education, right? I truly believe this. It's an educator's heart. Like, if you
Yeah,
have an educator's heart, then you're gonna find yourself in education, and obviously that's where you have. And the stories like Aiden that say, that's why I'm here. That's what I'm doing. Aiden
yeah.
wasn't even in your class when you had that conversation.
No, no, no.
And to
Been to
say,
college
and
and
that's yeah, that's an educator's heart right there to say, I'm forever in your corner. It's
yeah,
not for the
that's
next 180 days. You got me for life.
yeah,
I just had two former students this weekend at my daughter's art show that are getting ready to graduate college and are telling me what they're doing and getting married and all these
yeah,
things. And it's just like, my wife's having to pull me away. She's like, "We're going to lunch," and I'm like, "No, I'm catching up with these former students." And I left and I said, "Hey, if you need anything,
yeah,
like here's my number. Call me because I'm here for you." And so that's it. That's the educator's heart. So I mean, we got all right. But let's keep rolling.
yeah.
Gosh,
I'm
this is
all
good
on it,
stuff.
man.
I know that we could have a 2-3 hour episode here, but we'd probably eventually lose some listeners.
Yeah,
So now, just real quick,
yeah,
tell us what your role is today,
yeah.
and who you serve.
Yeah. So currently, I am a head principal at a school in Dare County, Outer Banks. It's Manio Elementary School, or a K-5 Title I school on the island, the Roanoke Island. And we serve about 650 students. It's a pre-K-5 school, so it's a large school, a lot of good
Yeah.
needs, very diverse.
Hmm.
Thankfully, I get the privilege to serve in some realms. When you think at student groups or subgroups, I got them all. I get
Hmm.
data marks on almost every single subgroup. So we get a
That's
really
awesome.
diverse population in my building, which allows you to look at things through an equitable lens all the time.
Yeah. Hmm.
It gives you a global view every day. It helps you see your impact with different cultures all the time. So it helps you be very more self-aware of your surroundings and who you bring in, how you communicate. And honestly, it's that fire because you see the kids every day. When the kids walk into the elementary school, I'm that principal. There's like a giant speaker boombox out there and music playing. I got
Yeah.
my playlists, and kids are
Yep.
rolling in. They're dancing, right? They're walking with their parents. I'm a big walking community too because of where we are. We're like almost like a castle on this island. It's the biggest school on the island. I mean, our high school has
Hmm.
maybe 5, 4, but seniors are taking classes at COA, which is a college university
Yeah.
close by. But active bodies, middle school is like around 350, and then you have this giant elementary school that's 2 stories that wraps around, that's 650 kids in standing room only. I laugh sometimes, like no vacancy on the sign could be on there because we're way at capacity.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I
It's a
love
good
it.
problem. Yeah.
Exactly, kids want to come, right? You want kids
Yes.
to come to school. I always laugh at my staff we would be like Disney World. Never been to Disney World, want to go one day, but I've read enough about Walt and his
Yeah.
marketing, what he did. Like you step across that line, right? It's a show. It's game time. Like it's
It is.
on,
Yep.
right? I mean, you might have been there, Ross, with kids, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone's in
100%.
character. Everyone's creating that
Yep. 100%.
experience,
That's
right?
what I always say. We want to build something that kids get to come to instead of have to
There
be
you
at.
go.
I say it all the time, all the time. I want our kids to say, I get to go to school today. They
That's
wake
it.
up and they have that feeling because they know the atmosphere, the culture that you have created, and learning just happens.
Yeah.
It doesn't even, they don't have to think about it. They're learning as they're coming to school. So that's it. You've created it. That's one thing I was going to share on this episode at some point about you that I love. Obviously, I follow you on social media and we connect. You send me pictures sometimes of stuff that's
Yeah.
happening. But one thing I love about you is that, yes, you create this just modern culture for your students and your staff. But at the same time, you have a lot of traditional, values
Yeah.
and traditional ways that you lead your school. And I think it's so important that you lead with that. And there's such a fine line. We had this conversation before we started recording. There's such a fine line in education today of new technology, new strategies, but also just core values in maintaining what kids thrive and need to grow up to be
Yeah.
successful adults. And so
That's
you're doing a
right.
great job of that. I want to say that. Thank you
Thanks, man.
for doing what you do. So just a couple more introductory questions,
Sure.
and then we'll dive into our topic. But
Got it.
Curtis, when I say this question, who comes to mind? Who has influenced you in your life? It can be personally, professionally, two people, one person, whatever.
Uh, I'll start with my parents, right?
Uh,
Dad's not with me any longer, but mom's still here and biggest cheerleader. Just super supportive and always been kind of my corner, whether it was ensuring that as I was seeking professional jobs, I still give her all the glory for passing on Bible verse to me, John 15:5. I'm the vine, you're the
mm,
branches. Man, they
yeah,
without me can do nothing, right? Really looking at bearing fruit, man can bear much fruit. But just knowing that, and then just surrounding myself with people like yourself, Ross, and professionally as you get into your field and knowing your calling, you find people that are doing it the right way,
yeah,
and you're listening more than you're talking, right? I'm
mm,
not seeking to be heard, but seeking to listen first, right, and then really hear what they're saying, because people have been doing this for a while, and I think of different principles. Like I work with Steve Blackstock, my Dion Childress. I can name my past superintendent John Farley, current superintendent Stephen Bassnight. There's always people right in front of you that
yeah,
have a lot of information to share, a lot of good. Like they don't just speak to
mm-mm,
speak. Like they've gotten these positions for a reason, and they're maybe highly successful or have had a lot of challenges too they faced, right? And if you're really listening and observing people around you, like there's a lot of good. There's a lot of information that you can,
mm-hmm,
as a learner, can process through and maybe do it your way, but like respect the way they do it, respect the things that
yeah.
they're saying, be intentional about just
Just put your spin
listening,
on it, right?
yeah, to inquire. And then if you do use what they do, give them credit. The
Yeah,
first one, right? I mean, thank you so and so for doing that. And I think that's like the lost art of just working with people. Like, we're not stealing, we're sharing. We
yeah,
all want to
100%.
to walk our line, but be built up too when we get packed on with a heavy backpack and we're walking through mud. We want to know that I can relieve some of that from you or go this path maybe because it isn't as rocky, because I've been there when
Hmm.
it's rocky.
Yeah,
And I think it's just that those people in general, start with family and even like my pastor, like, outside of school, like, having these connections of being mentored is a privilege.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah,
it's,
don't do it alone,
surrounding
right?
yourself
Like
with live
just
counsel, right?
hmm yeah, surrounding yourself with the right people is so important because you shouldn't do this life alone. You shouldn't do this
Yeah.
career, this profession alone, and there's always somebody that's gone through it, like you said. So having those people in your corner, the right people in your corner, and it's so important to listen. That's something that as a society we get farther and farther away from. It's just
Yeah.
listening to what's right in front of us. So. And then Curtis, we'll say this will be our last intro question, but
Sure.
what what has been something in your let's stick with principalship
Yep.
that's been it's a game changer or a hack that once you implemented this, it just like opened doors. It's been allowed you to be more successful. What's comes to mind?
Um, I'll say, I mean, the relationships, like I could go to town on different things I've done intentionally to build relationships with staff. And that could be a
Yeah.
whole PD session. And let's get into that when we get into like the 3 R's.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, but I think when relying on like our role as principals is you're the lead instructional facilitator, right?
Hmm.
We're trying to better the instructional strategies on our staff, right? So for me, it's not what Curtis brings in and says you have to do. It's me saying, what are some things that you're doing? How can I amplify? How can I flashlight? How can I spotlight these? And how can I get others to see what you're doing, educator, and then they can implement it? And
Hmm.
over time, working through what these strategies will be so that we then tailor PD to it. And then also that is empowering the teachers that are doing it that keep doing it. Let's make it better. So I would think the hack of like going into school and think you got to know it all, or there's like a system that you got to implement that has all the best practices that's going to fix it without like seeing what best practices are already done in your building or encouraging others to go seek it. Like I would say, professional development, like
Yeah.
be intentional about modeling professional development for yourself, not being ashamed of going to PD,
Yeah.
telling your
Right.
staff, right? Like I go and I want you to go and I'll bring back, I want you to bring back. And then when we share out and it's intentional and they know that's learning for you, learning for me, right? I'm gonna bring back for my kids. Then let's take that success, let's build it something for our school. Like let's create our school DNA, right? Let's
Yes.
double
Yeah.
strand helix this thing where it's a little bit of what you have, a little bit of what this teacher shared with you, and let's all wrap it together where we know we built this for our kids now, right? So that
That's
hack
good.
of taking a step back and trying to build your school DNA in a way that's equitable is powerful, I think. And
Hmm.
this year we have like the 5 to Thrive, right? And it's different practices that we do in our building that the best manual elementary school educators is doing these practices, right?
That's
And
cool.
we're supporting it. And it's
Hmm.
student engagement. It could be standards alignment. It could be proximity and pacing. It could holding high expectations. What does that look like in the class? But having
Hmm.
some type of basic setup, right, for like a standard of practice, it helps everyone be on the same page, right? Veteran, BTs in the middle, non-licensed, emergency teach, like it
Yeah.
helps
At
create
all.
that,
Yeah.
right? That normal so that they can go next door, they can see that when we're talking about our staff meetings or PLCs or this, they know where it all falls in line with. They don't got to
Hmm.
branch out as much and be like, well, oh, you are doing this. Yeah, this is how we do it. It helps create that same message. That and really the biggest hack I think, is like we all know this, but like getting with your staff and about creating that vision, that mission
Hmm.
like,
Yes.
respecting the history, the tradition of your school. And then, what do we all want our kids to be rehearsing? What do we know we want our kids to be aware of? And it took me, and it might take time. It took me a year with our staff, intentional work of like, what's our mission statement? What's our vision? What do we have set for ourselves? What do we want our kids to emulate? What do we want to use
One,
a lot?
yeah, like common language and common goals
Common
is
language.
so important.
Yeah,
So important.
those
That's
hacks
cool.
aren't like, I mean, you'll see results from really using the voice of your staff and your students to help
Hmm.
tell the story, right? It's not me, it's my story. I'm one person in the big building. It's the kid's story. It's the kids
Hmm.
creating history. It's the kids telling it, right? I mean, that's what it's about, right? And if they're
Yeah.
bought in, there's 650 kids going in that direction, like that's collective efficacy beyond, we get the teaching, the
Anything you can do.
G's,
Right.
right? Like
Hmm.
that's
That's good.
power,
That is. Yeah.
and it might take time to get that, but there's a will, there's a way, and with people working together, I mean, you believe you can do it, and the first people to believe anything are kids. I mean,
Hmm.
I love the Rita quote by the champion, be a champion for
Oh
kids.
yeah. Yeah.
Like
It's one of my
it's like the
favorites.
video you want to rewatch every year, right? It's
Yeah.
like, don't forget, just rewatch it for your staff. You want to highlight PD guys, throw it to your staff member, ask them for rate of hands if they've seen it. If you don't got hands that seen it, or if you got hands that seen it, show it anyways.
You showed anyways.
Show it
Yeah.
anyways, right? Because it's like
Hmm.
spot on for her talking about, I'm telling my kids that I chose them to be in my class, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Right? Get kids
And they believe
excited.
it.
Like,
Right.
like I laugh at like making connections with sports, but like, on draft day, like first of all, I'm a Commanders fan. Like I'm in paradise right now. Like I know we
Yeah.
almost won. We've been 8-2 since '83. That would have been amazing, but I'm so happy, right? So happy. 7-3. I take it all day long.
Take
Right,
it.
but
Yeah.
kids get excited. Like, you pick me? Yeah, I picked you. I'm like, what? Like mindset,
Yep. Right.
privilege to go to my class, right? While we put doors, like fancy, cute, like door signs in front of all my classes last year as a big initiative. We painted them. We put them on door signs, like, meet your kids at the door. Just meet them.
I know. So much power
Like,
in that. Yeah.
so much power. I mean, research everyone has it. The engagement, just quality of
Yep.
work, academics. I mean, something as small as that, asking them, and it's not perfect. We have it. Life gets busy. Emails, they're not always there. I get it, but it still sets the stage for them to be there. And if you can really tower these as like your higher pillars, I mean, that's not a hard implementation right there. I mean, that's like,
Mm-mm.
but it reminds that staff that, hey, it is important. Like, my classroom space is important. It's my space, and you want to empower them to know that it's their space.
Yep.
So what can
You're
you do to
part of
remove
it.
barriers, right? The green
Yeah.
lights talk about, Ross. Like, how do you
Yeah.
get them focused in, that knowing that it's go time? Like, this is our space, is our time together. We're going to be running, and I'm gonna help you get there, right?
Yep. And that ownership. So awesome. Thank you,
Yeah, man.
Curtis. So, all right, we got we were already like crazy going over time, but it's okay. This is gonna be a long episode, and that's okay with me. So today's topic, I've mentioned
Yeah,
this at the beginning of the episode: rigor, relevance, and relationships. Curtis, I know you're coming off an opportunity where you just had a chance to speak on this topic,
yeah,
and let's just dive into it. I'm sure that
yeah.
went
Sure.
great. For time's sake, let's just dive into it. When it comes to rigor, why do you believe that our education system has decreased the rigor and lowered expectations in the past decade?
Yeah, Ross. I mean, that's it's so many factors go into that. I mean, to
Hmm.
get into rigor, to creating a high expectation environment where there could be failure, right? We can stop there and have
Yeah,
an episode on failure, right?
right.
On how to get people past
Fear
those
of
points.
failure. Yeah.
Fear of failure, like how to, why does pressure make diamonds, right? Why do
Hmm.
we stopping the growth that children can have based on that pressure, that fatigue, that hardship, in a way of learning something, that grit. Like, none of that should be things that we shouldn't be focusing on education, because we want to be educating the mind to learn and grow. So we want to put those pressures in place, but to get to that, we got to set that environment up, right? You can't hold rigorous conversations with no classroom management. You can't ask kids to do hard tasks if you're not planning hard things, right? So there has to be some rigor in that, and you're not going to just jump up and wake up and expect rigor from your kids because you have an EOG at the end of the year, and it
Yeah.
has rigorous questions and a topic from some author in France, and they might not be interested in that, as a
Uh-huh.
question set, right? But but you're expecting them to understand the main idea, to break it down, to find a theme, the eternal message. Like you're not gonna, it's not gonna come naturally, but you have to create that rigor environment. So the past 10 years, yeah, I mean, we've had an uptick of information overload, right?
Oh
How
yeah.
much thinking are we doing right now? I mean, because people can think for us. There's AI,
Mhm.
right? I mean, it can
Yeah.
benefit. I'm not against it. It can be beneficial in certain avenues,
Right.
right?
If I don't have to spend 20, 30 minutes doing the research because AI can do that for me, then why are we not creating incredible things?
Mhm.
Right? Let's utilize that time into putting forth an incredible
And
product, right?
that's
Or
it.
utilizing our talents in other ways instead of just saying, oh, we're just going to let it do it for us. And that decreases
Correct.
the rigor.
So, like, if
So,
that's one piece, then our minds should be open to being more creative. Like
yes.
everything we do as humans, we have creative. If you're a teacher, then you're the art of teaching is being very creative, right?
Hmm.
So because we have more of our capacity here, like what can we create? If you think about Bloom's taxonomy and analyzing, creating, it's right there, right? What kind of words to help kids create? How are we analyzing that after we've created something to see if it's
Yes.
successful? So
Yeah.
you're in that space where if you can set the standards and they can create the rubric that's high expectation, high leverage. Okay, here it is. Bing. Now let's get to the power of learning, the metacognition, the more time of thinking. Like why do we instill wait time? Why do we
Yeah.
instill high academic language in my classroom, rigor, and just conversations? Ross, if we had a script, our conversation probably wouldn't go as far,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we're creating environments. So in our classroom, if we're instilling the expectation of what academic language is in discourse, and here's the topic, and allowing people to create, then that rigor is going to come because 9 times out of 10, you let people do and create, kids will blow your mind. Just
Oh,
like
yeah.
teachers, let go a little bit. Daniel Pink, mastery, autonomy. Like you
Hmm.
can think about that, and you will see a classroom that you're like better teacher than I was,
Right.
and we want that. Like,
Yeah.
and then it becomes fully transparent when you're like, you know what you're doing in your classroom is simply magical. Like, and
Hmm.
from your heart, they know that you're not just puffing them up. Like, I'm sincere. Like, what I see in
Yeah.
this classroom is amazing. Like,
Yeah.
keep it up.
Gotcha. And
I love
yeah,
it.
and as leaders, take care of those people.
Take care of
Like,
those people.
right? Put a spotlight on them. Allow them to share within your school too, and
Yep.
support others. Don't just say this is an amazing classroom, but bring them out and
Yes.
influence the rest of
Amplify
your
them to
school.
staff. I
Amplify.
mean,
Yep.
and how easy is it to go into a class and tell the students right there in front of them, you have an amazing teacher,
Yeah. Because they don't
right?
see
You
it. That's
wanna
just
you
yeah.
wanna raise
Yeah.
them up, like have the kids cheerleading for them
Hmm.
because we don't know, like as you're saying, like walking to a class, like what if 5 minutes before that there's a behavior, teachers didn't want to tell you about it,
Yep.
right? Change
Yeah.
it real quick for those kids.
Right there.
Like
That's
you
good.
lucky you had this amazing teacher. Like
Yeah.
I'm so lucky to have this teacher. I'm so lucky to have you. So create that paradigm shift instantly.
Yep. That's good.
You know?
So I would say rigor, when we talk about red lights, green lights, rigor's the red light. For sure, it is
Yeah.
the red light in these three R's. But let's get to the green light. And what I know you believe has to happen in order for magic to happen.
Yeah.
You and I truly believe this, and we're on the same page here. But that's the relationship piece, right?
Correct.
And that's the piece a lot of times that we don't put enough time and effort into. So floor is yours. We'll talk about this.
Yeah. I mean, and that's thanks for letting me kind of mention the power of relationships, Ross, and kind of giving Ross a toot too because Ross and I when we met, I mean, we're in Get Your Teach On and he's presenting and the culture, right? Culture's huge. Expectations are good, but like without a culture, I mean, you rely on people, right? Relationships.
Hmm.
I love to mention this in a presentation, like with like a funny, cute meme, right? But a culture eats instruction for breakfast, right?
Yes.
You would go in and change the world. I got these strategies. I'm gonna come in and we're gonna change. yeah, right. Like if you don't have your culture set, do
Yeah.
people
Good
trust in
luck.
your relationships?
Yep.
You're done, right? So
Yep.
how do you intentionally go and seek good relationships with people, right? I mean, what's your intent? It
Hmm.
has to be sincere. It has to be through listening, through proximity. Like you can't be in your office building relationships. I mean, that's one on one.
Yeah.
Visibility is accountability. You got to be in that. You gotta listen to hear, listen to understand, so that when you talk to a teacher in the hallway, that you let them listen more because they've been talking all day, right? You're walking fast in the hallway to get to something. You see a teacher, you start talking to them. Slow down.
Hmm.
Take your pace down so that you're talking to them, not running because you have to get somewhere. Or when you see a kid in the
Yeah.
hallway, walk at their pace, right? Little things so that you're in tune to listening. And when they talk about their kid, they talk about what they're doing, make sure that you remember that. Take internal notes. Like even don't be afraid to if you're pulling your cell phone out for your teacher's talking. I say to my teachers, I'm taking notes right now about what you're saying because I really want to hear what you're saying.
I want to be intentional. I want to be transparent. This is what I'm doing. I'm not
This is
ignoring
what I'm
you.
doing.
I'm
I
not
don't need you second guess,
engaged here. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
I mean, you want to build that. You want to be able to highlight. You want to be able to see. You want to be in the classrooms. You want to be able to amplify that for kids. So that relationship, you work staff, students, and community.
Yep.
Okay, you have to be. You're the leader of the school. Your community. They need to see you. They need to see you out. They need to hear from you. They need to know that you're asking them for feedback. That you want their input. You want kids to have input, right? You want teachers. You want to ask them for feedback. You want teachers to
Hmm.
hold you accountable. You want kids to hold you accountable. You want parents to hold you accountable, right? But you also want to be able to leverage all three of those things,
Right. They need to
and
know they have a voice, right? You
that's
have a
it.
voice in what we are doing. Everybody. I love that you mentioned that. Like, it's not just teachers, it's not just the leaders, it's students, it's the parents, it's your community, right?
Yep.
I don't even have kids that go to your school, but I know that I'm a part of that school because they are in my community. That when you say that, then you've got it going on because everybody should have a voice. You said your school is the castle of the island,
It is,
and
man.
everybody on the island, they know like that's it. We want to support the castle because the castle is what is raising our next generation, and
It
I
is,
want to be a part of that, and that's
and
special.
and that's been those aha moments where I was like, this is like going against the grain, like trailblazing a little bit. You have your basics, meeting after school improvement team meeting, everything. This past year, I flipped it around. Okay, parents come to PTO meetings all the time. Right, I'm not getting people at my school improvement team meetings. Okay. So you know
Yeah,
what? When do they come? They come in the morning. So I partner with the PTO president. I say, I'm gonna have my school improvement team meetings in the morning. It's gonna be harder for me because I gotta manage it, get coverage for
yeah,
staff. So 8 a.m. sit meeting. 8:30, 8:45, PTO. Get PTO sit, get my PTO people to come to my sit if I can, or get that time frame for my parents because I can get more people in.
yeah,
Tell our story. I had 11 people on my first sit meeting, parents, right? That's
yeah.
fantastic.
That's
I
great.
mean,
Yeah, yeah.
20 some people in a PTO meeting, right? But they talk to each other, right? I mean,
Hmm.
what we're trying to do here, instructional fundraisers, I want you to be able to see what we're doing. I want you to have a role in it. Like this year, I have my chair, my of my sit is a parent,
That's awesome.
right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's great, right? I mean, it's
yeah.
fantastic. I still got amazing teachers on it. I got everything you need. We got people on goals, but like, how are we helping our parents come back in? And
Hmm.
we're past that pandemic card, right? I want volunteers in. I want people in. I want people to see me. But if it's been a year, 2, 3 years removed, like it's quick. We're quick to forget.
Right.
Like we're a community epicenter. Like we're family focused. We're family centered. And I'm an elementary man. I got little kids. They're impressionable. Just like middle school, high school. I get it too. I've been in that realm of teaching. But right now, like you have a lot of power of influence.
No, yeah.
Right? I
No.
mean, there's a lot of purity, a lot of sincereness that you can get from kids, and you can see that and
Hmm.
use it. We talk about a staff meeting talking about power of hugs, and telling my staff, and I open up with this power of hugs, and I'm gonna take a minute to hug someone, and they're like, "What you doing, Mr. Price?" But then they start hugging. Right, this is after school. This is like, I want to be home right now.
I'm tired.
Whole
Yeah.
mindset staff meeting changed. I stopped them after like 2 minutes. Right, they went over a minute, shy hug, whatever. I said, "Guys, stop. Look around. Everyone is smiling.
Hmm.
Look around you. You either side hugged, you laughed, you had a conversation, you went out of your way, you hugged. You're all smiling right now because you hugged.
Yeah.
And here's the
Even the
research,
awkward
right?
people are smiling.
Even it is, right? I mean, it's, and the research would say there's like it was like I think a psychotherapist, American psychotherapist talks about this, and you can fact check me, but it was like eight hugs a day, or 4 for like maintaining, 8 for like sustaining, and like 12 for growth. Right. So I was like, do you give 12 hugs a day? Do you receive 12 hugs? Do our kids get 12 hugs? Are you
Yeah.
hugging at home your own kids, your wife, your loved ones? Like, we talk about in my school, like reflecting on data. And if you guys all voiced over 50% of our staff don't think our kids come to school prepared enough, right? Mental health and all this, right?
Hmm.
And if they're not getting one hug, or maybe they had one hug, but if you're hugging in the morning, I'm hugging them. They see me in the hallway, they come chase me down, and they're hugging them, right?
Yeah.
Leg hugs, it's all good. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Like, but
Oh
if they're
yeah.
getting hugs in the cafeteria, they're getting hugs there. What if they're eclipsing that? Like, that's not instruction. That's
No.
not
Yeah. You don't.
that's not
Yep.
intellectual prep time after school. That's not analyzing data to re-rate small groups. Like, it's hugging kids.
Yeah.
And if that
Making
changes the game, guys, like, that was free of charge.
free of
Like,
charge. That you're changing lives by doing that. Like truly, and I talk about that a lot. Like there are kids that step into your school, forget about hugs. They didn't have an adult talk to them today,
yeah,
right? They haven't spoken to adult. So when they come to your school and they know they've got adults that are not even just going to talk to me, but they care, they love me, they hug me, they show me this. They can't wait to be there, right? They not just get to, but this is a place I have to be at. I
yeah,
really like. I gotta be at school. They wait all weekend to be there Monday
yes,
morning.
yes, and,
Veterans
and
Day.
we all see it in
They're
summertime,
upset.
man. Right? I
Yeah,
mean, kids crying last day of school.
yeah,
Right? You're in your office.
yeah.
You see the kids. You can see the kids coming back to the little free library, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's there, right?
It's
Playing on
there.
the
Yeah.
playground still because it's comfortable,
Yep. That is,
right?
you mentioned that last day of school. That is something that people that are not in the education world, I remember hiring a few paraprofessionals, and the first time that they've seen this, or even a first year teacher, I remember
Yeah,
a particular first year teacher, the first time she ever witnessed this on the last day of school, and the number of tears from students is astonishing. Not, in the movies, last day of school, the band's
yeah. They're
playing, and
playing
I'm
that
running
with that.
out. My
Yeah,
papers are flying in the air. The last day of school, especially in an elementary setting, is not that. It's a somber
yeah,
experience. You got kids that are getting ready to take off for Disney World, and that's great. Good for
yep,
them. Good for their families. But I would say the majority of kids are sad on the last day of elementary school before summer because, um, especially if you're doing the right thing, you're building a special place that cares and loves them and is providing the right experience for them. And so yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up because people don't realize that
they
aren't in
don't.
education or that stepped into education for the first time. So, all right, Curtis, on this topic,
Yeah,
we are way over time, but that's okay. I'm good with this because the conversation is so great. But before we wrap it up,
yeah.
when it comes to relationships, what any other just tips or tricks that you would share with teachers and principals alike that you would say make sure you're doing this in your school. If you want to see results, if you want to increase your rigor, you've got to do this first.
I would say, make sure you know the kids. Right? That's just
Hmm.
simple. Make sure you're hearing from the kids. Right? You can look at the teachers, and I think it's important to write thank you notes. I don't think it goes out without,
Yeah.
you can highlight and ensure that you're intentional in celebrating. But the voice of your school is in the kids. right? As a principal, you want to make an impact. You want to be able to as much opportunity as you can, seeing the kids and knowing that they have an additional person in their corner, right?
Hmm.
Like the instruction will come. You got to go with observations. You have to build relationships. You have to be meaningful. You have to plan, find PD. Create opportunities. And we do wagons. We have surprise staff meetings. I've even got a bus one time, and we took them out of a staff meeting. I took them putt putt. Right. And I got my
Yeah.
CDL license so I could do it. Right. So what? Those things are fun. Right.
Hmm.
But that's not going to increase rigor and relevance in the classroom.
No.
But you get to know your kids. You get to ask them the questions in the classroom, like what's going on, what are you learning about, who your favorite teacher is, like all of these little things, and you be intentional about it. But get the kids into your space too. Like Ross, I have to say, like one of the coolest things I've done is that birthday books thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you shared that with me a while in a PD, and I just fell in love with it, right?
Hmm.
And I had an office, big shelf, like old
Collecting
books
dust,
from
wasn't it? Yeah.
been there, right? I mean, so I was like, all these books can go, and filled it up with books. Talked to my local bookstore, and they loved it. Filled up with brand new books, and now it never goes without a doubt. Perfect opportunity. Kid coming in my office. I'm working on this. I'm doing this. He comes in smiling. Principal's office, right?
Yeah.
Talk for a little bit. Get the book, and I get to sign it, and they love it. And whatever book they want to choose, they grab. And it's those little things. We talk about the power of relationships. Talk about you see in the kids. I have 650 kids, so you have 185 school days. They all know if they have summer birthdays that they come in. But like if that kid I'm having a conversation with, so if I get him like 3 times, I get him 6 times, I could have over like 3,000 conversations over 6 years. Right?
Yeah.
Every kid I can have a
Amazing.
conversation with. What's your favorite book? It's quick. What do you like? Oh, let me see that. Oh, cool. And
Hmm.
again, like our power, we have to forget because it could be a moment for us, but that's huge for them. I might
Yes.
not
They'll
ever
remember
see
that.
that kid
Yeah.
again, and the majority of them have never come to their principal's office.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you're flipping everything for a kid of the principalship of
Yep.
the scary fear principle, flipping it into the exciting, loving, caring principle, right?
Hmm.
So for educators going in, like set that example for your staff. Like
Hmm.
it shouldn't be threatening to go to their principal's office, right?
No.
Like how many steps did you already have to do to say that in front of your class? Like what if you never have to say that? Because kids don't want to come to my office anyways because they want to do what's right for you, the teacher, and the principal. They know
Hmm.
that they might feel guilty, and they might not completely know guilt yet, depending on their age, but they might not want to go in. But Ross, kids would get upset. It will resonate with them if they make a mistake. When
Hmm.
they get in that office, it happens. But let's be proactive before acting up. If they respect you, they see you in the classroom, they know you love their teacher, right? Then I'm gonna do for my parent, or maybe not. I'm gonna do for my principal, right? Because he cares about me. I'm gonna do for my teacher. Then
Yes.
you're flipping the script on a kid's environment, and then you can go
Absolutely.
in to creating those rigor environments and holding at high expectations and coaching teachers on structure, why it's important to have structure in your classroom and to have assessments so kids can actually show what they know. Because kids
Yeah.
do want you to see what they know, what they don't know. I get it, right? Pre and post tests or these things, right? You're trying to gather background knowledge, but try to also let them show you what they can do,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
'Cause they can do a lot.
Yeah, they can. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head. And when you start being proactive instead of reactive and you change that mindset and you have that shift of culture in your building, watch out. The sky's the
Yeah,
limit. I mean, it really is. And it starts with the leader, starts with leadership, starts with the principal. I love, the one thing that we've talked about and I was a huge proponent of, still am, is flipping the script and saying,
yeah,
I want the principal to be seen in a positive lens. I want you to come to my office for a positive experience instead of being fear of something negative. And that's being proactive, right? Instead of a reactive state. So thank you, Curtis. Thank you for sharing,
yeah, man.
the 3 R's and, obviously your passion for these and you were doing incredible things in your school.
Thanks,
And
man.
I'm thankful that you got to to share with us today some of the things. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of what you're doing. So it's not going to be the last time you see Curtis. I can assure you that because we're going to do some work together. But
Yeah,
of
man.
course, is going to be out there in the education world, and it needs to be because our schools need it, our educators need it. And this is the whole reason for this platform, for this podcast, is just to provide educators with tools that they can use. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people doing great things just like you all across the country. And we need to support those that are struggling and do what we can. So thank you. As we wrap up, Curtis, please share with our listeners how they can contact you,
Yeah.
social media, and because if they may have questions after this and they may need to
Sure.
reach out. And I know that you are always willing to support them and
Always.
whatever they're doing. So share that real quick before we jump off.
Yeah, you can easily find me by, Google my school, Manny Elementary School,
Mm-hmm.
admin contacts. You'll see that. Instagram, Mr. Principal Price. Twitter, I think it's Principal like underscore Price. It's all
Yeah.
principalship, right? It's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
privilege. But email Price, see you at Dare to Learn. Educator, I think it's empower for sharing. I am the first one to give, and I think it empowers all of us. Because in the avenues where we walk, there's different scenarios, situations that we need a
Mm-hmm.
network. Like Ross talks about, like this network is PD. Like we need outlets of people that are doing great things that can affirm us. Because sometimes you're isolated in principalship, you,
Mm-hmm.
you
Oh
might
yeah.
second guess to do this or that this way, right? But I think what Ross highlights in these PDs is us being authentic. I mean, that's our calling, and not to always compare ourselves, but to be surrounded with people that are doing great things. And we're
Yeah.
at this very pivotal time in education where
Mm-hmm.
we can empower a lot. Like we are at pivotal times in society where we are with technology. We're in unmarked territory, right? We're privileged
Yeah.
to raise this next generation with these, I'll say, influencing components that kids can access, and they can drive, and they can be more creative than ever,
Oh yeah.
right? So, sharing, email me, Instagram, Twitter, however you need a message. I'm more than happy to share anything I got. I'm all about sharing and
Yeah.
excited. People share with me. So it is what it
Yep. It's
is.
continuing to give it, right?
Continue back. Yeah.
So, well, thank you again for
You got
coming
it.
on today. I love this conversation. I just appreciate our friendship. I appreciate
Yes,
everything
sir.
you're doing for your students right there. Um, and I'm excited to continue the work. So, to all of our listeners, thank you for listening in. We appreciate you listening to this conversation. We hope that you were able to take one thing out of it. If you take one thing and go implement it in your school, and we did our job today, and
Yep.
that's it. If you're able to take 5 things, 10 things, because I know Curtis provided you with a ton, then that's great. Do it. If you got questions, reach out to either of us. We're here to support you. We are in your corner. But until next time, as I always like to say, be great today.
Yeah.